Welcome to this session of our study on 1 Corinthians, and we're going to continue in chapter 2 and in verse 1. Now Paul is continuing from chapter 1, of course, and here in chapter 2 he's going to provide information about his own behavior as an example to the Corinthian holy people. So in verse 1 of chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians he says, "When I previously came," or when he went, "to you, brothers." Again he addresses the Corinthian holy people as brothers. These Christians were brothers in the Spirit category because they had all received the same gift of Holy Spirit. "When I came to you, brothers," emphatically, I did not come in accordance with superiority of word. I did not come to you with a prominence or eminency, as though he were holding a position or a rank proceeding from the spoken account. What he means is that his attitude and focus was not based on how eloquent the individual words were that he spoke, or of wisdom proceeding from the skillful or expert application of personal knowledge that he had himself. In other words, his attitude and focus was not based on how wise Paul was. And that was during the time when he was bringing the message, the good message, the gospel consisting of the mystery of God down or home to you. Now the word mystery could also be translated as secret. And when Paul uses this word mystery in his writings or in his letters, he's referring to something that has many details and are known and can be understood by those involved in it, those involved in the mystery, and by those to whom it has been revealed. A mystery is not inexplicable to those involved in it. So Paul says, "When I came to you, brothers, I did not come according to superiority of word or of wisdom, messaging to you the mystery of God." He says, in truth, I did not judge, or he did not make a decision to have known, to perceive among you what? He didn't want to know anything or something among them except, or unless it was, Jesus Christ. Which Jesus? Jesus Christ, emphatically, this is the one who was crucified. Jesus, who is the Christ, who was crucified, and this truth has not changed. Now back in chapter 1 and verse 23, Paul also referred to Jesus Christ, the one who was crucified. He continues and says, and emphatically, I caused myself to become, he caused himself to become in weakness or without strength emanating from himself, his flesh, and in fear or fright. He was afraid of the consequences of any bad behavior on his own part. He did not want to perform or to perform anything that was wrong or that was against God and the things of God. He wanted to show the correct awe and respect that were due to God. So I caused myself to become in weakness and in fear and in a lot of trembling. And that word trembling refers to, being shaking or quaking. It really means in this sense, in this context, that he had tremendous intensity in his obedience to the things of God. That's where trembling comes in. The tremendous intensity to obey what God says. That's how Paul behaved himself among them when he was with them. Towards you. And the words that I spoke, and the proclamation that I heralded forth to you, were not within the sphere of action of persuasions or convictions proceeding from the wisdom that's the fleshy or worldly wisdom. But on the contrary, they were within the sphere of action of a pointing out or an exhibition, a demonstration, proceeding from the Spirit and proceeding from ability. That's coming from the Spirit that was within Paul, and that power that emanates from the Spirit within Paul. Why? He says, for the purpose and result that your faith, your belief, your believing relative to God and the things of God, the information that I would give you to believe when I taught you, would not be within the sphere of action of men's wisdom or fleshly wisdom coming from mankind, but on the contrary, it would be within the sphere of action of God's ability, the able power or the capability that comes from or originates from God. Of course, Paul would receive the information and the ability via the gift of Holy Spirit within him. That's how he was able to behave himself according to God and God's ability while he was with the Corinthian holy people. In verse 6, Paul continues, and he changes from the past tense to the present tense. He says, we, referring to himself, myself and those with me, he says, we speak wisdom among complete people. Who are complete people? The word translated complete people primarily refers to those who have received the gift of Holy Spirit. They are complete in the Spirit category. All Christians or all holy people have received the gift of Holy Spirit. We have come to that ending issue, or the completion, the state of perfection that we can achieve right now relative to the Spirit category. We are complete relative to the Spirit category. Also, of course, in this context, Paul is referring to helping them to behave in accordance with their Holy Spirit. He wants to help them to conduct themselves, to walk in a manner that corresponds to the Holy Spirit life, instead of all the divisions and strifes which were among them and to which Paul referred in chapter 1 of this letter. Paul and those with him were uttering forth wisdom among the complete people, the holy people, all of them. But only those who were complete in their thinking, in their minds, who were walking and behaving in alignment with that gift of Holy Spirit would, of course, recognize that that's how Paul and those with him were behaving themselves and now teaching the wisdom of God. We'll see that as we continue. He clarifies what kind of wisdom he is referring to, and he says, but wisdom not of or belonging to this age. And this age refers to the current duration of life, the current lifetime, the life that we live today, nor belonging to the rulers of this age, the ones who are chief or in a ruling position relative to this age, whether they are people or spirits. And then Paul further clarifies, he says, emphatically and specifically, the rulers who are presently being rendered ineffective. Those rulers who are becoming or being rendered inactive, inoperative, and useless. Those rulers who willingly reject God and the things of God. So the wisdom that Paul and those with him were teaching or proclaiming, heralding forth, did not belong to this age or to the rulers of this age which are being rendered ineffective